Yesterday, I scolded a stranger in a subway. Have you ever had to publicly scold someone you didn't know? Story 1. About a year ago at my university, there was this blind man who was the nicest guy ever. Seriously, he takes a full schedule of classes and is always somewhere on campus. He uses a white cane to help guide himself, but still, understandably, gets lost on the large campus plenty of times. He doesn't really have much of a family left, as he's much older, but he loves learning and says that's how he wants to spend the rest of his life. Anytime I see him, I always say, "What's up?" and walk with him to where he wants to go, because he tells some of the coolest stories. One day I was walking in the hall of one of the campus buildings, and I saw him accidentally brush a girl with his cane. He immediately apologized. This girl was blonde, fake tan, in Uggs and sweatpants. We have lots of girls like this on campus. They suck. Well, instead of being understandable to the fact that he is freaking blind, she starts screaming at him and telling him to not be such a pervert. He keeps apologizing and saying he didn't mean to bump into her with his cane, but she isn't having it. She's making a scene. I've never moved so fast in my entire life. I sprinted across the hall and said, "Hey, what the F is wrong with you?" She's shocked, since I guess she didn't think there was anyone else in the hall watching, and she starts saying how he hit her with his cane. And all I do, in the most "I'm not angry at you, I'm just disappointed" tone I can utter, I tell her, "That man has more dignity and self-worth than you will ever have. Apologize to him and leave." She got this "I just messed up" look on her face, apologized without even looking at him, not that he would know the difference, I guess, although this also happened in like a split instant, and walked away with her head hanging down. My blind homie graduated last semester too. Everything worked out. Story 2. I used to fly a lot for work and often had to deal with the typical flying annoyances: crying babies, people who were too wide for their seat, obnoxious drunks hitting on the flight attendants. But the one that sent me over the edge was when a 9 to 10-year-old girl in the seat behind me began to kick the back of my chair repeatedly, yelling at the top of her lungs for no reason. I turned around, glared at the girl and at her mother sitting next to her, and simply asked her to stop. The girl almost instantly resumed the kicking and yelling, prompting the flight attendant to come over and speak to the mother and her child. Less than a minute after the flight attendant had returned to the front of the plane, the kids started at it again. I undid my seatbelt, turned around, and completely ignoring the kid, I ripped into the mother. "Is this your kid? Yes? Then act like a parent and control your daughter. She's acting like a spoiled little brat. I've already spoken to you about this, and so did the flight attendant. Now I don't care how you deal with your kids when you're at home, but I'm sure as hell not going to put up with your daughter kicking my seat and yelling in my ear for the next 3 hours. If you can't keep her quiet and behave for a 3-hour flight, you shouldn't be on a plane." Then to the daughter, who was smirking while her mom was being reamed out, "You think this is funny?" Death glare until the smirk disappeared. "Answer me, do you think this is funny?" The girl finally answers very quietly, "No." "No, I don't think it's funny either. You're going to sit in your chair quietly, and you're going to watch TV or read a book or something, and above all, you are not going to kick my chair or yell for the rest of this flight. Agreed?" She just nodded back at me. As I turned back around in my seat and put my seatbelt back on, the whole plane gave me a round of applause, and the flight attendant gave me free drinks for the rest of the flight. The girl never made a sound louder than a whisper for the rest of the flight. Story 3. In college, for a Spanish class I was taking, I had the opportunity to go see a foreign film for extra credit. I had to take notes during the film so I could write a brief summary of the movie to turn into my Spanish professor. The movie is playing in one of our big lecture halls by the Foreign Film Club at my school, so there were a lot of students there watching. I get to my seat, settle in, and start watching the movie. About 10 minutes in, 2 girls enter the hall and proceed to make a lot of noise, like nothing is going on at all. They take their seats in my same row, but on the other side of an aisle. They continue to talk for the next 10 to 15 minutes, loudly, while the movie is playing, not giving any cares. I can tell the people around me are annoyed with subtle and groans, and multiple heads turn to look at the girls, but no one really does anything, and the girls keep talking. Finally, I've had it. I get up, walk over to the girls, and ask them in the most polite voice I could muster, as I was very annoyed, Please excuse me, ladies, for interrupting your conversation. Would you mind shutting the frick up so the rest of us can watch the film? I just stood there and they got very angry and left. The entire lecture hall applauded and the movie went on. There were no more interruptions. I left that place feeling 10 feet tall. Well worth the 25 extra credit points. Story 4. Kind of. I was at a Panera Bread around the holidays a few years ago. It was full-on shopping season, and the place is close to some shopping malls, so it was extremely busy. This older couple ordered coffee, and the lady behind the counter gave them a to-go cup, saying, "I'm sorry, we ran out of clean mugs, and the dishwasher is running now, but I didn't want to make you wait," or something like that. Very polite. The lady got ticked off and started screaming about bad service. She actually yelled, "I need a hero cup, not a to-go cup." The poor girl behind the counter kept apologizing and saying they would be done in a minute, but the lady just kept witching. Meanwhile, another employee came up to take my order, so I ordered my drink and said as loud as I could, "And a to-go cup is fine with me. Unlike some people, I understand the drink will taste the same." The old lady freaked out about how rude I was while I waited for my drink. The manager comes out and gives me a free loaf of their holiday bread for being so patient. Old people left, still angry. Didn't exactly scold her, but made a loud comment in defense of the employee. Old people left, still angry. Good thing they had a to-go cup. Story 5. I'm ashamed to admit it, but this is a habit of mine. Whenever I see anyone drop litter or who is acting in an incredibly rude manner, they get told off. Too many entitled people out there who think they can just do whatever they want. Just last week, I was at the supermarket, and there was a woman who had about 3 items on the belt, speaking away on her phone. When a little old lady went over to put her stuff on the belt, the woman on the phone said, "What are you doing? This is my space. I'm just waiting for my husband to come with the rest of our stuff." This got me cross enough, as it was, but then up strolled this jerkwad with a cart that was almost overflowing with stuff. I just couldn't hold my tongue. Turns out this witch had been hogging a space on the belt and telling her husband what to get over the phone. I mean, what the frick? So I told her that she and her husband could go to the back of the long line they were causing. I was in the next line over. They both got all upset, and I demanded to see the manager. They called the manager, and I explained how vile and selfish they had been. And to his credit, the manager told me I was right, sent the people to the back, and comped the old lady's groceries to apologize for her inconvenience. She only had about 4 items anyway. Story 6. Some kid was in a restaurant where my mom and I were trying to have a quiet lunch. This kid starts to throw crayons at my mom, literally from the next table. The mom was too busy talking on her phone to care. I tried glaring, but she couldn't care less. In the end, I walked up to her to confront her, and she actually gave me the 1-minute finger. That was it. I picked up all the crayons on the floor, on the table, and from in front of the kid, dumped them on her lap, and sat back down. I think she was so shocked, she just left. The manager of the restaurant gave us a free meal. Apparently, that particular woman was known for just letting her kid run riot. The manager needs to learn about the concept of firing your customers. At my job, we have fired a small handful of customers. They are not welcome in our store anymore, as they've been nothing but a pain in the butt, costing us money, insulting employees, wasting our time, disrespecting other customers, etc. Those people have all been informed that they are not welcome to shop with us. Rather simple. If you can't abide by our rules and are dragging our bottom line down, I don't see why we should continue to provide them with our products and services. Story 7. So I went to Subway yesterday to get one of those delicious $5 footlongs. Upon arrival, I saw 3 girls, probably about 17 or 18-ish. The first 2 order, and the server asks the last girl what toppings she wants. She's on her phone, so she doesn't answer. The server asks her again, not being impatient or rude, just asks. The girl snapped. "Can't you see I'm on the phone here? God, you are so rude. Just wait until I'm done." I was so offended and embarrassed for the server, so I couldn't help but say something to her. "That was extremely rude. You came here to get a sub, so don't yell at her for providing the service you asked for. Just get off your phone, order your toppings, and stop acting like a child." She looked at me with contempt and anger, but I think I intimidated her, so she didn't say anything back to me. The server looked at me, smiled, and mouthed the words, "Thank you." Story 8. My buddy and I were at a movie, and these dudes who were talking about they had just gotten out of basic training were bashing the movie and laughing, making rude comments. Well, my buddy tells them to pipe the frick down, and they flip him off, but quiet down. After the movie, we're at the front of the pack, right behind the 6 or 7 guys being rude, and my buddy says, "That was really rude to everyone how you were behaving." And one of them, the loudest, whips out his military ID and says, "Yeah, well, I'm a freaking Marine, and I fight for your freedoms, which..." My buddy, who just happens to be an officer, whips out his and says, "I'm a Marine officer, and just because you have the honor of wearing a uniform doesn't give you the right to be a poop-spewing pissant." Then he made them stand at attention right at the door of the movie theater and apologized to every patron exiting. Story 9. Not me, but one of my customers where I used to work. This guy was being absurdly rude to me and my coworker. I had already told him quite clearly that there was a line and he would be waiting in it in the order he came in. This was a high-end store at Christmas time, so a sense of entitlement is a little bit too common. He called my manager an idiot after having to re-ring something. Another customer behind him, about half his size, taps him on the shoulder and says loudly, "Would you mind shutting the F up and letting these people do their jobs? You are seriously ticking us all off." The bigger dude threatens him, and the smaller guy goes, "If you were as tough as you like to think you are, you wouldn't have to be such a prick. Just shut the frick up." I magically found a 50% off coupon for my new favorite person. Story 10. I once caught 2 kids, around 12 years old, about to throw a Coke can at an old woman from across the street. I got in the way and yelled at them to freaking try it and see what happens. They stopped in their tracks and tried to deny what they were about to do. Afterwards, I felt bad and thought maybe I'd overreacted and could have used less threatening language towards 2 kids, but screw it. It's probably the only way I was going to get through to them. The old lady was completely oblivious to the whole thing. Story 11. I had to yell at a lady in a theater. She had 2 young children with her. After the lights went down and the movie was starting, the kids were still running around like little maniacs. All I said was, "Shh." She screamed at me, "They're children." I yelled back something along the lines of, "We all paid to see this movie. Yes, they're children. You are the parent. Shut them up or get out." I once tried telling a lady to please stop talking. Well, I got a little nervous and said, "Please, talking." Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.